Hello crafty friends, this is Jeannie Moss, the Bluegrass Stamper. Welcome to my studio. I'm here in the Bluegrass state of Kentucky. Today's project is going to be this little black, not sure if you can see that against that color. Here we go. This little black frame that you can hang on the wall, or you can just set it up if you want to. It would be cute on a mantle or hanging, or you could even take this off the back. There's another little hanger. So this little frame I got at one of the local craft stores, and we're gonna make this. So let's get started. First thing I did was I took the frame and I painted it with some just black acrylic paint. Got some little fuzz on there. So it took me a couple steps because I needed a place to hang on to it. So I painted all of this part and then let that dry, and then I came back and painted the top. So it did take me a couple of days to paint all the frames. We did this in class, so I painted 21 of these. You'll need some cardstock. We'll be needing basic white cardstock. You'll need a piece of 4x4 basic white cardstock. You'll also need some scraps of cardstock. You'll need basic black, basic gray, smoky slate, and some of this pretty glimmer paper. Now this one is Berry Burst, Old Olive, and White. So we're using some of the Berry Burst and some of the Old Olive. I have not used the white yet. You'll need a punch. This is the 2 3/8 inch circle punch, and a couple of stamp sets. We're using the Under the Moon stamp set. We're also using the Potions and Spells bundle, the stamps and the dies. So with your scraps, I've already cut everything out, so I'm just gonna go through and show you what it is that you'll need. I'm gonna bring in some scrap paper so you can see these pieces a little better. I've taken this die with basic black and I have cut out a cauldron. I've taken this die with basic black to cut handles for the cauldron. I've used this die, which is actually for the broomstick, and I did it with basic gray, and that's going to be the wand to stir the cauldron. I've got smoky slate, and I've cut out these two. Those are little bottles, little spell potion bottles. I've cut this with that Old Olive glimmer paper. I've cut this one with the Old Olive glimmer paper. And I've cut this one with the Berry Burst glimmer paper. So I've already cut all of those. And that's what we'll be cutting with the Potions and Spells dies. I've also used one of the dies from the Perennial Postage, and that's this die. And so we'll go ahead and get that piece ready to go. This is a piece of smoky slate. I'm just going to bring my foam pad in. And I'm going to stamp this a little Hocus Pocus. That's going to be in Memento Tuxedo Black. And I'm going to stamp it a little on this little scrap, a little bit to the left-hand side, because I want to leave some room for some little sparkles up in the other side. So that's the only stamping we're going to do at the moment. I've taken this already and I've cut it out using this die. So I actually have this piece ready to go, and this is the piece that I've cut out. And now we're ready to work on our background piece. Well, actually, we could put some of these together first. So let's do this first. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the handles for the cauldron. I'm going to go ahead and put a little dot of glue on each one of those. I'm just going to lay it behind and stick it down. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Just little dots of glue on those handles. Try to make them sort of match. So there's our cauldron with the handles. We also have this piece. I'm going to go ahead and put it on with some glue as well. I like to use glue because when I'm doing these kind of little things, because you can have a little bit of wiggle room and you can slide it around a little bit. So there's our potion coming over the edge of the cauldron. We've got our little bottle of potion that we're going to put some sparkly little potion in there. And we're going to do the same thing with our other one. All right, so these pieces are all ready to go. I'm going to lay them out of the way. And now we're going to start on our background. So I'm going to bring my foam pad in and my piece of white. This is 4x4 basic white. If you're doing a lot of these, use a 12x12 because you can get 9 of them out of a 12x12. I'm using Smoky Slate, and I'm using this moon from the Under the Moon set. So I'm going to stamp this up in the upper left-hand corner. And there's our moon. And then I've taken that punch, that 2 3/8 inch punch, and I've punched out just a piece of scrap paper. And I've added some repositionable adhesive to that. And I'm going to put that right over my moon and stick that down. Now I'm going to use Daffodil Delight, Pumpkin Pie, and Berry Burst. So here's my Daffodil Delight. You can see my ink pad looks kind of rough, but it works just fine. I'm going to use a blending brush, and I'm going to start blending into that sky. Now, if you notice, I'm starting on the circle, and that way I don't get a big smudge on my white cardstock. So there, and I said this, I think I said this was Daffodil Delight, and I lied about that. This is crushed curry. Our next one is going to be Pumpkin Pie. It's also a rough looking ink pad, but it works just fine. This one I'm going to bring from the outside in, just so I can get the smudges out here on my cardstock, and out on my scrap paper and not in on my cardstock. And it's okay if you get some of that because it does tend to make your sky look pretty cool. And then my final color will be the Berry Burst. And I don't want a whole lot of this. I want to keep this out on the edges. And especially in those corners. And up in this corner too. And I think that's probably enough. And now I'll take this off, and there's our moon. I think it slid a little bit while I was working on it. I should have held it a little bit tighter, but I think it'll be okay. So our next step is to take our cauldron and kind of decide where it's going to be. So it's going to be right along in there, and that's going to let us know where to stamp our bubbles. So we're going back to our Memento Basic Black, and we're going to stamp a few bubbles. So I'll move that, and there's a bubble, and then this is just to know where to put those bubbles. And there are different sizes of bubbles. And then I've got this little stamp that looks, I'm not really sure, like almost like little fireworks. I guess that's the magic, the little magic spell. Stamp it on there. I'm also going to stamp this on the edge of this. Some down here too. All right. So if you didn't like the looks of this and wanted to change it a little bit, you could put this back on and you could add more of your color to that. So let's do that. Let's make that a little bit less noticeable. So there's a little bit of the yellow. I'll add a little bit of the orange. This time I'm holding it a little tighter down so that it's not moving quite so much. Oops. So now maybe it's not quite so noticeable. And you could add more color if you wanted to. So now we're going to add this to our frame. But the first thing I want to do is decide kind of where this is going to go. It's kind of going to go like this. And I'll go ahead and put the wand that we're using as a stirrer for our potion. So I'm just going to put some glue on that, and I'm going to stick that right behind here. And now I'm going to take this, I'm going to take my frame that I've already painted. I'm going to add some glue. I'm not going to add, you don't go all the way to the edge because this doesn't go all the way to the edge. Just add some glue, then you can drop this in, and because we're using liquid glue, you can move it around and get it straight and centered and the way you want it. And then press that down. And then all of our pieces are going to go on with dimensionals. So I've got some old dimensionals here that I'm going to just cut up to use. So I'll put a couple on here. I'm going to put a couple on here. Let me get this out of the way so I'm not distracted by all that pretty color. And then I will put a couple of little pieces on the back of these guys. And now we're ready to start building this little scene. So I'm going to put my cauldron right down here in the bottom. I'll put my greeting up by the moon. Put this little bottle next to the cauldron. And then this little bottle will be next to that one. The only other thing that I did with this, isn't that the cutest little thing? The only other thing I did was I took my Wink of Stella and I added some little shine to the bubbles. And I don't know if you're going to actually be able to see that or not. Let me get it up here a little closer. I don't know if you can see the Wink of Stella on those, but they're shiny little bubbles now. And that is it. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. This was a little different than a card. We did it in class and everybody was thrilled with it. So if you have any questions, you can email me at bluegrassstamper@gmail.com. If you'd like to see more of my projects, I have a website, www.bluegrassstamper.com. Of course, if you don't have a demonstrator, I would love for you to shop with me. It lets me get more supplies so that I can do more videos. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.